You guys, you really need to hear this because I found this travesty of a case and like the commentary around surrounding this tragedy. Trigger warning. It involves children. The conversations about it is very much like infuriating. And I'm going to touch on that right after you listen to this little review. And pay close attention to this TikToker's like opinions and actually their commentary, their short little commentaries on this case after describing the events that occur, because I'm going to be touching on that.
Did she murder 3 of her children? Yes. Do I think she should go to prison for it? No, probably not. I'm a forensic scientist and a former CSI. This is Lindsay. Clancy. Her trial starts this week. The prosecution in her case wants her to go to prison for murdering her children. I'm not sure that's a good idea. I don't know if it's going to happen. I'm curious to know, what do you think about this case, and do you think Lindsay Clancy should go to prison? Right now, obviously, we don't know all of the evidence because the trial is just getting underway, but I do want to talk about what we know so far. Admittedly, Lindsay Clancy murdered her 3 children. She strangled them all with exercise bands. Lindsay was alone with her children for a little while because her husband Patrick had gone out to CVS and to pick up some takeout food. And when he came home, Lindsay had strangled all 3 of their children to death. She had cut her wrists and her neck. She jumped out of the second-story window of her house. She lived. None of her children did, although the youngest of her children did live for a couple of days. There is really no debate about what happened in this case and what Lindsay did. The issue is whether she is criminally responsible for what she did. The state says that it was premeditated, that she intentionally sent her husband out of the house, mapped out how long he was going to be gone, and used that opportunity to commit these murders and then tried unsuccessfully to end her own life. But her defense is saying she was not in her right state of mind and she cannot be held criminally responsible for what she did. And looking at it on its face, I tend to agree with the defense. Now, I haven't seen the evidence. I'm just telling you what I can piece together from the news. Her defense is saying that not only is she mentally ill, she was over-medicated, like severely over-medicated, and all of her attempts to get help failed. Nobody would help her. All this despite the fact that she was admittedly having auditory hallucinations. She was struggling with insomnia. She would be awake for 48 hours at a time. That is really dangerous. And then even when she was sleeping, she was only getting maybe 3 hours of sleep a night. She made repeated visits to the emergency room, to her primary care doctor, and she saw a number of health practitioners who prescribed her so many different drugs. I mean, she was on Prozac, Ambien, Remeron, Klonopin, Seroquel, Trazodone, Valium, amitriptyline, and really high doses too. She had told her care team that she had developed suicidal ideations. She was hearing voices. She had thoughts of harming the children. She thought that people could hear her thoughts. She was declining rapidly. She was in fact severely mentally ill, and she tried to admit herself into a hospital. And she actually was kind of successful. She got checked in on New Year's Eve. Nobody saw her until January 3rd because of the holiday, and then 5 days later, they checked her out. So she was really only under the care of a physician in the psych ward for 2 days. And she continued to decline. On January 16th, after she was discharged from the psych ward, she told her doctor about some really concerning things. She was having hallucinations, voices telling her to hurt her children, to hurt herself. And in response, they put her on more drugs. When it didn't work, they upped her dose, which just led to more insomnia. This is like the recipe for a psychotic break. And that's basically what happened. She started experiencing nonstop hallucinations. And she claims that after her husband left to pick up his takeout, the voices in her head told her, hey, this is your last chance. And so she acted. She said she was in a dissociative, dreamlike state. She took her children down into the basement and ended their lives. And then she tried to end her own life. After she took pills, cut her wrists, and cut her neck, she jumped out of the second floor of the building, and her husband, when he came home, found her outside laying on the ground bleeding. She is paralyzed from the sternum down. And to be clear, she is still not doing well. I mean, look at her eyes. I think you can kind of tell she is not doing well. I mean, not to judge a book by its cover, but she does not look mentally healthy. And according to her lawyer, she is not mentally healthy. In fact, she is incredibly unwell. She is under constant supervision at the hospital where she has been since this event took place. In court previously, her lawyer basically said, hey, she is always struggling with very intense suicidal ideations. She is always trying to take her own life. She has to be watched constantly. This was such an issue that her attorney said, hey, she can't be transported to and from court like a normal inmate. She needs to come in an ambulance. And he said, it's not on me. If she kills herself during this trial, which there's a very real probability that it could happen, it's on somebody and it's not on me. It seems extraordinarily unlikely to me that this woman would be successfully malingering for years. The issue here is not whether she is responsible for ending the lives of her children, which she obviously is. The issue here, and the issue that is going to be front and center at trial, is whether she is criminally responsible. And she cannot be criminally responsible if she was not sane. Now, obviously, we're going to have to wait and see. I think there's probably going to be a lot more evidence, obviously, that comes out at trial. It's going to be a really long trial. We've only scratched the surface of the information that's publicly available, but I want to know, what do you think? I know the trial hasn't started yet. We're going to wait to hear all the evidence. I want to know your first impressions. Do you think she should go to prison for what she did? Do you think she should even be prosecuted? Or do you think the prosecution should recognize that she is mentally unwell and she needs to be in a hospital?
First of all, like all that information that you presented and all the information that's seemingly available pertaining to this case so far doesn't really fundamentally change as much when it comes to what the point of the trial is, because she is guilty of committing the act regardless. If she's found to be legally insane, she'll be sent to a mental health institution for most likely for the rest of her life. And if she's found to be legally sane enough to have purposefully, knowingly, and meticulously committed the crime, she's facing life imprisonment. She's going to be stuck in jail for the rest of her life. So it's a lose-lose situation for her regardless. And second of all that precursor to everything that she did beforehand doesn't really fundamentally change on the whole aspect of the defense's legal insanity plea. They have to prove that at the time of the crime, she was mentally ill there's no current confirmation that she was actually, diagnosed with postpartum psychosis, postpartum depression, and or bipolar disorder. Those are speculations from the defense. That's the defense's argument, that she had undiagnosed cases. So they have to prove that she was actually thoroughly mentally ill to some capacity, whichever it's at the time of the crime, and also that the mental illnesses that she suffered caused her to lack the appreciation of the wrongdoings of her actions, that she was not able to tell what she did was right or wrong, or she did not grasp the concept of that at that moment, at that time of the crime. And based on the fact that she was experiencing all these thoughts and that she was aware enough at that time that she could potentially bring harm to both herself and her loved ones, that kind of already puts her at a disadvantage from my point of view, based on the information you presented. She was aware enough to be I'm not doing well, and you can argue that yes, she did what she could have done, but she still could have done a lot more. She had more options at the time. She could have permanently stayed away from her children at the time, and I mean permanently, not just come back. She chose to come back. She could have also, temporarily terminated her parental rights. She could have sought another mental health professional if she felt like the ones that she was with was not doing her due diligence of helping her, and she felt like she was just being given medication. And based on all that information, that just proves that those people that were in charge of her health are also responsible. They partially contributed to her actions as well. She's not the only one who's still responsible. They also need to be held accountable. That's really what your case is so far, based on specifically you who sit there and said that she should not be sent to a facility or go to jail. No, she should not be allowed to go free at all. She needs to be institutionalized somewhere, whether it be a psychiatric facility or a jail, whichever which. She should not be allowed to roam free. And again, another point, a big point of this is throughout the aftermath, it's the women who are defending this woman again and justifying her actions or behavior and acting like she was definitively suffering through postpartum, despite the fact that there's no confirmation of that. And that somehow postpartum is just an excuse. Actual studies showed that people who suffer from specifically postpartum psychosis, they rarely commit infanticide. Rarely. It was estimated a case of between 1 to 4.5% of cases of untreated postpartum psychosis have led to infanticide. So it's first of all, postpartum is already rare in and of itself. 1 in 7 women and 1 in 10 men have been diagnosed or experience postpartum depression, and even postpartum psychosis is even rarer, and rarely leads to anything. It's very rare in and of itself. So this idea that every single time a woman unalives her children, just ends the lives of her children, it's automatically postpartum or all these excuses. They're used to using mental health as a scapegoat to avoid accountability of any kind, and throwing around this garbage. And then when people are challenging them on their points, they just throw the old reliable misogyny. You just hate women. You don't want to empathize with women. Why? And then when they try to bring up similar cases like Jeffrey Dahmer, the people who are questioning these women, because Jeffrey Dahmer was diagnosed with bipolar disorder, schizotypal personality disorder, paraphilias, and was alcohol dependence, and even they speculated that he was autistic as well. He had all of these mental impairments, but he was still found guilty because they were able to prove that he still meticulously acted and planned out his crimes. Because basically demonstrating that you can have a bunch of mental affliction, that does not automatically make you too insane or too unaware of your actions, of what, your criminal behavior. Like, mental health is not a get out of jail free card, literally. Like, stop with that. It's like whenever these women who defend women who do horrible things, especially to this severe degree, they'll throw out every single unironically misogynistic talking point trying to demean and belittle women to these incapable, mentally defective, mentally weak, incompetent human beings that cannot function in society. Like, every single excuse of like mental health, postpartum, like menstrual cycles, hormones, every excuse, like, just unironically try to demean and take away women's autonomy and capability in order for women to not be held accountable for their actions. It's like you're unironically making a point in an argument for people who are actual like anti-woman to be like, why should women have the rights of an adult if they're not capable of being responsible with those rights? Like, you do realize you're doing that, right? You're giving these unironic, misogynist, like actual misogynist, like the excuse of like, why should women have rights if they are not responsible? Like, that's what you're doing. You cannot sit there on one breath saying that women are just as capable and competent as men, but then when they do something wrong, even in the cases where mental health is involved, you try to do everything in your power to minimize and infantilize women to these incompetent, incapable creatures that are just too delicate for society. It's like, again, then they'll say, like, why should women have rights? Like, take away the right to vote, take away the right to work, take away the right to do anything, take away the right to go to work, like, just go full-blown Saudi Arabia, male guardianship laws, all these things, like gender segregate everything. Like, you're making these arguments and you're unironically belittling women at your convenience just so they don't have to be held accountable for their actions. Like, how slow do you have to be to do this? Like, you're so desperate to avoid being held to the same standards as everyone else that you're willing to belittle yourselves and unironically advocate for being anti-woman in the process. Like, if you would like to make a donation, please check out the QR code or the link in the video description for my PayPal account. Thank you very much.